Why can't you schedule any meetings in a library room? It's because they're always booked. Welcome to Small Business Celebration. We're continuing our series on spring from COVID. And our guest this week, well, she's a financial planner that, well, she is sharp on so many different tiers. This is Small Business Celebration. Join us as we learn from successful business owners and successful business leaders about who they are, from where their business has grown, what they have learned, and where their successful business is going. I am your host, Michael I. Roberts, and we're going to learn something that you can use today to grow a strong and profitable business. I'm here with Debbie Charpentier, the owner of Charpentier Wealth Strategies. Welcome to Small Business Celebration.
Thank you. Good morning.
For visionaries who don't know who you are you, and what is it that you do?
My name is Debbie Charpentier, and I'm the owner of Charpentier Wealth Strategies, and I've been a business owner for 32 years. And I pride myself in making financial planning simple for people, understandable.
The reason we're here talking with Debbie is for a variety of reasons, including the CalSavers program that's coming up, and we'll talk more about that in the second segment, especially if you're here in California. But the first thing I've got to ask you, Debbie, is you could have been a hazardous waste disposal technician, you could have been a veterinarian, but you decided to go into financial planning instead. Why did you choose to do that?
This career found me.
Okay.
This is my second career. I worked in food and nutrition in a hospital, and I enrolled in the retirement plan. And the lady that enrolled me became my mentor, and she recruited me into this business when I was 27 years old.
You've been doing this for a couple years.
Yes, just a few.
What possessed you to want to actually own the business rather than being an employee?
I always had an entrepreneurial spirit. My dad was a business owner, and I always knew I would have a business of some sort. It was just in my blood. It really was.
What did your dad do?
He was an electronics component builder.
What is that?
He built loudspeakers and all the components for speakers, stereo systems.
When you saw your dad doing that, why did you look at what he was doing and say, yeah, I want to own my own business too?
I like the independence, the flexibility of a schedule.
Okay.
Being able to do many different things during a day rather than being set at a desk. I don't like punching a time clock in and out. That is not my nature.
Right.
I just like doing, what I'm going to do.
One of the things, too, is you chose to partner with Lincoln Financial. And you've been a partner with them for years and years and years. And why did you choose them, or did they choose you?
That's a very good question. Thank you. So part of the interview process, when I was interviewing with Lincoln, when you become a financial advisor, it is a long-term decision. Because if you're going to have people trusting you with their finances, trusting you with their money, they told me from the get-go that you have got to be sure about this business.
Right.
And so a requirement of the interview process was interviewing 3 other companies. So I interviewed 3 different companies. I lived in San Diego then, and I realized that Lincoln was by far the best.
How so?
Personable, mentor, many opportunities to mentor. And in the beginning, we had market access.
What's market access?
Market access was when we were the only company for hospital retirement plans. So every hospital in California utilized Lincoln Financial Advisors at the time to come into their hospital and teach each employee how to save for retirement and how to be financially set.
And if there is one industry that thinks long term is the healthcare industry.
Yes, yes.
There are a lot of different financial advisors out there. I mean, you can go out there and literally shake a tree and they just fall out. They are everywhere.
Yes.
And what makes you different from every other financial advisor that anybody can find on the street?
Thank you for bringing that point up because it is very confusing for people, and I know that. One of the main things is that I do partner with Lincoln Financial Advisors, and they are my broker-dealer. You have to clear your business through a broker-dealer. So when you're starting to approach a financial advisor and figuring out who you want to work with, it's a really big decision. But Lincoln is one of the biggest broker-dealers, in the world, and they give us independent architecture, which means I can work with almost any financial company outside of Lincoln if it's the best product for my client.
Really?
So we're independent. Many companies are held captive, which means they can only sell their company's products.
So if your client comes in and whatever product or service Lincoln Financial has that isn't up to snuff for whatever that client is, you can actually take that same client and use another company, and Lincoln's okay with that.
Yes.
Give us an example of where that's happened for you, where you've said, Lincoln is great, but this is better. Give us an example of how that works.
An example would be long-term care. Long-term care insurance is a very important protection. Lincoln offers 1 or 2 programs, and it is appropriate for certain health issues and not others.
Right.
So I make sure that in my toolkit I have maybe 4 or 5 different companies that offer long-term care. Each one has its own specialty as far as what type of client it fits. And so then I figure out which one is best for the client, teach the client, and then they choose which one they want.
I teased that we're going to be talking about CalSavers in the next segment, and the reason is this is a really big deal, especially if you're an employer in California, because this is going to change a lot of things. But before we get into the next segment, if Visioneers want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Please call me at 661-322-5204, or you can email me at debbie.charpentier@lfg, and that is spelled DEBBIE.CHARPENTIER@lfg.com, and that stands for Lincoln Financial Group.
Charpentier is Belgian?
French.
French.
Charpentier.
Pontier.
Charpentier.
Charpentier. You should use that instead.
I should. It is way more sexy. Way more sexy.
And if you like Small Business Celebration, go ahead and like, subscribe, and notify, and we'll be right back with more on CalSavers, because this is changing the small business world faster than you can possibly know.
Your face is your brand. Portraits are important because you need to be the face of your business. Whether you're the business owner, you offer a product or service, you need to put that out there. It's the representation of your company. You can find Red Crane Portraits online at redcraneportraits.com. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. You can call us at 661-243-0931, or you can email me at shauna@redcraneportraits.com. Your face is your brand, so call Red Crane Portraits today.
I'm here with Debbie Charpentier, the owner of Charpentier Wealth Strategies, or is it Charpentier?
Charpentier.
Charpentier it is. And our Visioneer question comes from Maggie, who asks, by June of next year, the state of California is requiring all employees to participate in either CalSavers or their own retirement plan. But what about business owners themselves? Are they required to participate, or what alternatives do we have?
Great question. So yes, CalSavers is bringing...
Oh, first of all, what is CalSavers?
CalSavers is a mandatory retirement plan that the state is requiring that all employers with 5 employees or more offer to their employees. And it's basically a payroll deduction, IRA. And so I'm happy that a mandatory retirement plan is being offered simply because it increases the awareness and maybe the urgency to an average employee to save for retirement, because most people won't save on their own.
Does this plan cost the employer any money?
It doesn't. And that's another big benefit of this plan. It's easy to sign up. There aren't any fees to the employer. There's not a mandatory match that the employer has to participate in. So it's very simple. You can do the CalSavers, their program, or you can offer alternatives, which I've been offering an alternative.
Does the employer have to include the CalSavers as part of their standard payroll deduction process for the employee, and do they have to monitor that the employee is continuing to put money into CalSavers?
All that is required of the employer is that they offer the program. The employees and the employer, they're all eligible. Employer and employee can opt out. So actually saving is not mandatory.
Okay.
But they can opt out and they can stop and start. It's very, very flexible.
What are some of the strengths of the CalSavers program?
Payroll deduction is always a plus for people. I don't know about you, but I, especially as a younger person, was not disciplined about saving.
Right.
So when I was offered a retirement plan through payroll deduction so that I could pay myself first before I went and spent it on something silly, I was able to save.
Is this a pre-tax deduction or a post-tax deduction?
It can be either.
Oh, really?
And the employee and the employer, each person gets to pick. So do they want to do pre-tax, or do they want to do post-tax, or what is called the Roth IRA?
And what's Roth Ira?
So Roth IRA is very popular because you deposit your money after you've been taxed. So it's post-tax, and every dollar that you invest in your account grows tax-free for your lifetime. And having a bucket of money that is tax-free is a beautiful thing.
Do you get taxed on that money when you pull it out of your Roth IRA?
No.
Ah, it's because you've paid your pre-tax.
Yes.
So if you put your money in pre-tax, then you have to pay your taxes when you pull your money out.
Correct.
Okay. Now, what are some of the reasons why you're advocating for alternatives to people putting money into the CalSavers program?
State of California, sometimes employers are just a little bit leery, and so they've asked me to research other companies and offer a different plan.
And
so
what plans have you found?
The one I've been working with is American Funds. They've been around, since the Great Depression, and they are a solid company that I'm familiar with. I've always worked with them. There's a couple others that I could offer, but I really think highly of the American Funds. And
why is that? What makes them stand out over the state-run system?
Their track record, basically, like I said, they started back in the 1920s. They're based out of Los Angeles, and they don't spend a lot of money on advertising. They depend on word of mouth between advisors to teach their clients about them. So they're very good stewards of, their money.
So
their finances.
Is this where we put in the little disclaimer on the bottom of the screen that says, your financial future is not dependent on returns and all that?
Yes.
You probably know that
Yes.
better than I. What is that? What is that blurb? Do you know off the top of your head?
Oh gosh, no. Don't ask me that. Don't ask me that. No guarantees. No, I can't guarantee you're going to make 10 or 20% on your American Funds today or something like that.
And you're not going to guarantee you're going to have any money left whatsoever.
Right.
But track record has been typically, well, and this is kind of important too, is the American Fund that you're talking about, is this an index fund where it's based on the S&P 500 returns, or where does that money come from?
So the American Funds has about 50 different funds to choose from. And rather than making that decision of which fund to choose with the employees, I went with the target date funds. So a target date fund is where you can choose a fund that is close to your retirement date. So like I'm probably going to retire in 8 or 10 years.
Okay.
So I would choose a target date fund close to that time. And
the target date fund says, okay, we're going to invest money till this date, and then we're going to start withdrawing it at this date.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the risk for that kind of fund. So say I enrolled somebody last week and she's going to retire around 2060. So that money will be invested fairly aggressively until we get closer. 2050, 2055, 2060, so that the money will be invested properly so she can access it around 2060. That's the way it's designed.
Now, I'm nerding out on this. I apologize for this. But so when you're going through and your money's being invested, it starts off with much more aggressive stocks and that sort of thing. And then when you get closer into retirement, it gets more into bonds, life insurance, those kinds of investments. Is that correct? So you're saving your money, or you're having less risky investments when you're getting closer to retirement, correct?
Yes.
Okay. For the client of yours that is 2060 out, what are some of the more aggressive investments that the program starts off with?
So big tech companies, investing around the world, not just in America. There's so many other opportunities outside of America. We are pretty well set here, but thinking about third world countries and different technology, outside of here. So make sure you take advantage of that. Make sure you're buying shares of companies and industries that are all over the world and capitalize on the opportunities. And part of my job is helping somebody to develop their confidence in that. Someone might come in and say, I don't like risk.
Right.
I don't want any risk. Just
Right.
put me in a CD.
Right.
Well, CD is probably paying about 2% interest right now.
Which is far less than inflation.
Yes, far less. So there's a lot of things that you've got to work through as you start to develop an investment plan.
We mentioned a little bit in the previous segment that you have the entrepreneurial spirit, and with that comes risk, because it's not the safe, stable, secure job that we think of when you become a business owner. You're taking a certain gamble when you go out, and part of business ownership too is being willing to accept that risk. Now, you also mentioned in the first segment that one of Lincoln's strengths is the hospital industry. Yet, not always has this been the case for you.
So you want me to share what happened?
Please.
Okay. So I built my business. I had thousands of customers. We worked at Mercy Hospital, Memorial Hospital, all the local hospitals, and it was my job every day to go to the hospital. I had a wonderful community of, customers and potential customers, and that's what I did every day. And all of a sudden, without very much notice, our company was notified that we weren't needed on site at the hospitals anymore.
Wait, and one thing real quick.
Yes.
How many thousands of customers was this?
The first hit was about 3,000, 4,000 customers, which meant their payroll deduction, their funds that they were investing, were no longer going to be coming to Lincoln or to me.
Wow.
I still remember that day like it was yesterday. And that's when that was the beginning of just being tested. How bad do you want this business? Are you sure you want to stay in business? My kids were young then. I was in a fairly new marriage. I mean, there was a lot. And it tested me, and I've passed.
But it happened again.
It happened again. San Joaquin Hospital or Adventist Health, Bakersfield, Adventist Health, the whole hospital system let us know for a number of reasons. It was a very difficult decision for them because we had been in that hospital since 1980, and the employees really valued our education and our support. And they had approached me ahead of time and said, this is coming. And part of it had to do with The regulations that were coming down in 2017, it was part to do with that they had to change. And so they let me know October of 2016 that as of January 2017, I would no longer be doing business.
In total, how many customers was this?
That was about, for me personally, that was about 4,000 more.
So you're talking about a total of about 10,000 customers.
Yep. Yep. It was rough.
And then with the changes in the law,
my staff up and left in the summer of 2017 as I was getting on an airplane to go to Rwanda on a mission trip.
wow.
Yes. Yes.
How did you recover from this?
Well, I have a very strong faith in Jesus, and so he brought me through. And I will always remember my boss, Celeste Gurley. She's the president of our region of our company. She called me, and she's known me, for many, many years. And she called and she said, "Debbie, I know that you're going to Rwanda. You're going to be gone for a few weeks, and when you return, your business will not resemble anything that it ever has. But we are going to support you, and we're here for you, and we're going to help you." And that's been the case. So I have rebuilt myself since 2017, kind of changed gears and my focus, leaned on mentors to teach me new skills, and here I am.
What's the single biggest lesson that you learned from that affects the decisions you make every day?
One of the biggest decisions was we have no control, but we can control our attitude, and there's always somebody that needs what we do. So even though the hospitals somewhat close their doors, there's plenty of other people in Kern County and California and America, for that fact, to work with. But one of the deep down was diversifying your business. I knew that I hadn't diversified it as well as I should have been, but then when you've got all these customers depending on you, that's the way you go. And so diversification of your business. Don't have a customer base in one sector. Don't have everyone in healthcare. So now my business is with healthcare, education, and then oil and gas, because we have so many companies here in town, and also farming and agriculture. So I have diversified it. It was hard because a lot of people outside of healthcare, they didn't know me. They said, "We never heard of you," except for Charpentier Insurance. He's my brother-in-law, Charpentier Insurance. So I get free advertising from them because everybody knows his jingle and everybody knows that company.
How did this event change you?
Oh, it helped me to understand hardship. I'd had other hardships in my life, but a deep, deep hardship being able to coach the coworkers that did remain before we lost the first big case. One of them quit that day. She said, "I just can't take this. I just can't take this uncertainty. I'm out of here." And I had been training her, working with her for 5 years. So what did it teach me? That you can always just brush yourself off and start over. You can. And I've done that numerous times now that I'm reflecting on it.
And we'll be right back. It's hard to believe, but we are 3 episodes away from starting season 4 here on Small Business Celebration. And I have to confess, the comments and thoughts and ideas that come from visionaries just like you who reach out to us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram have been astounding. But I have to confess, Visioneer Tony is the first to send me a dad joke. So the dad joke that you saw at the top of the show, yes, you can blame Visioneer Tony for that. So if you have a thought, you have an idea, somebody you'd like us to talk to, or a really bad dad joke, reach out to us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram today. I'm here with Debbie Charpentier, the owner of Charpentier Wealth Strategies, and our Visioneer question comes from Terry, who asks, I find my clients are very nervous about talking about money, especially their money. How do you put them at ease so that the conversation can be more productive?
That is a great question and so true in my business. So I know that when a stranger comes in, a prospective, client comes in to meet with me, that it took a lot to get them there, because most people feel like they either don't have enough, they feel like they have made too many mistakes and they're embarrassed. So they generally come in being intimidated, nervous, just like your Visioneer has asked. So I simply try to make it welcoming when someone gets here, give them a beverage, give them a snack if they need it, come on in and sit comfortably, and we just get to know each other the first meeting.
How do you get to know them? What's the process of knowing them?
I do have an exercise, it's a little game, and it's about values.
Okay.
And so I have a game, and it's kind of fun to play just for them to get to know more about themselves. I get to know them in the process, and if it's a couple that's coming in, they get to learn about each other's values and what really matters to each of them, and then that helps us prioritize where to begin when we do their financial planning. So that's a good icebreaker. It just takes about 5 minutes, and that's just fun. And then
if I don't ask this question, my wife, the party planner, is going to kill me. But what is the game?
Well, it's simply there's 20 different values.
Okay. And when you say
on little
values,
cards.
okay. Are they
like what's important to you?
Oh, okay.
Family,
Okay.
fun,
Okay.
happiness,
All right.
integrity, trust.
And they have to go through and define what those things are?
No,
to them?
we do. I just give them the flashcards, and they choose the top 5.
Okay.
And then we go into the top 5 in more detail, and I would ask you, Michael, why is trust important to you? What does that mean?
Conversation starters.
Conversation starters, yeah.
Nice. But in the process of these conversation starters, you are very quickly getting to the root of the issue. Why is that so important?
Because generally people will kind of hide all the real stuff because they come in and they want to present their best self, but I need to get to the real nitty-gritty quickly. Decide if there is a good fit between us, because there isn't always a good fit, whether I can help them or not. And so we have to get down to bare facts pretty quickly. And I just try to be approachable and real and non-judgmental.
It's not your fault that you waited till you're 60 years old in order to come in and get financial planning.
Exactly. Yes, sometimes that is the case.
Right.
So I know how it felt at first when I started, the retirement plan when I was 25. I had no idea what I was doing. I was lost, and I trusted the lady that, enrolled me. And that that one decision changed my life, because here I am.
Right.
So if I sense that somebody is uncomfortable and they're closed and they don't want to open up, I'll just talk about different things and get them to be comfortable.
Now, you've been in the business for 260 years or
At least.
Exactly. And you've recently been able to free up some of your time to start pursuing other interests in addition to your business. And what's one of the ones that you have picked up that you've started applying right now?
So I started a new hobby a few years ago, and it brings me a lot of joy, and it's just so fun. I started sewing. Sewing.
Is this like needlepoint, embroidery, crochet?
No, sewing dresses and pillowcases and making just sweet little presents to give to different organizations.
Like what?
So it started with making little dresses to send to girls in Rwanda. Oftentimes, kids will not have any new clothing, so I think a little dress, handmade, is very special. But not only is it the product, I enjoy the process of sitting down quietly with my machine, learning, how to do the different stitches. I've taken lessons here in town at a couple different places, and they've been really helpful. I just enjoy the process of creating. And I knew that when I was younger, but I was busy, with my kids and busy with my business and my marriage and just doing other things. But I've really been embracing that. And when the pandemic hit, I was stuck at home.
Yeah.
And I was stuck at home. I had to work from home for a couple months.
Right.
And I made the actual face masks. That was very, very challenging, working with elastic. And I stick with it because the hobby isn't easy for me. I struggle with the measurements, and I struggle with parts of it. And so I persevere because now that I'm getting in a more, mature age,
right.
I think I really need to challenge myself, challenge my brain. And so I stick with it because it is frustrating at times and it's difficult, but I think that's good for me. But I really enjoy making pillowcase dresses and then handmade pillowcases, and I'll donate them, for the homeless shelters, for people when they come in, they have their own pillow. I find a lot of joy in that. So it's really been a lot of fun.
One of the things you mentioned in the previous segment is that you had a mentor from the corporate side that really helped you guide through that very challenging process of losing 10,000 customers. I'm still, that's huge, I'm sorry. But you didn't mention that you had a local mentor that helped you. You had a corporate mentor that helped you with that. You have since changed that, as it were. You've learned from not having a local mentor. And what are you doing now based on the lesson that you learned from that?
Well, I learned, through all those big changes that it sure would have been nice to have somebody close by to talk to. I did talk to my husband a lot. He is an accountant, he's a CPA, he's the smartest person I know, and he really helped me a lot. But it would have been really helpful to have a local woman, possibly also a business owner, to walk me through rebuilding everything. And so Women Leaders in Business is a local women's group that approached me, and Tracy Barman, I didn't know her at the time, which is hard to believe now because she's become a really good friend, and I just respect her so much. And we all are women leaders in business. We get together for lunch a couple times a month, and we have a small group where 4 of us get together regularly, more often than that, and we basically just support each other, help each other through whatever we're working on right now, and give ideas and really help each other grow. And it's just fantastic.
What have you learned from Women Leaders in Business?
That everybody has a struggle, that there's always a real person behind the persona or the identity that they project, that we all need each other and we should help each other, and that is just the right thing to do. It's I'll think I know somebody in the group and then say, you want to go for coffee? And then we'll talk, and it turns out, that below the surface, she's got a lot of issues. She's going through a divorce. She's taking care of her mom who has Alzheimer's, and there's all these things you never would know.
Right.
So take the time to get to know each other and put the time in to really get to know people. That's very rewarding to me.
What makes you wake up every morning and open your business?
Oh, I've always been a self-starter and very driven. I love Kern County. I love the people here. There's a lot of people to meet. There are so many cool people here, and I just want to get to know them. I want to meet new people. I want to possibly do business with some of them or volunteer with them at different charities. And so that's what gets me up every morning.
Well, Debbie, thank you very much for joining us here on Small Business Celebration. And if visionaries want to reach out and get in touch with you, how do they do that?
You can call me at 661-322-5204. That's my phone number. And you can email me at debbie.charpentier@lfg.com. And we have a Facebook page. I have a website. If you'd like to make an appointment with me, the first meeting is complimentary. And you can go onto my website, and my calendar is on there, and you can schedule a convenient time for us. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and I'll be right back with my final thought.
Your face is your brand. Portraits are important because you need to be the face of your business. Whether you're the business owner, you offer a product or service, you need to put that out there. It's the representation of your company. You can find Red Crane Portraits online at redcraneportraits.com. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. You can call us at 661-243-0931, or you can email me at shauna@redcraneportraits.com. Your face is your brand, so call Red Crane Portraits today.
A variation on Plato's cave. Once upon a time, in a cave far, far away, were 5 prisoners shackled together. And as the campfire burned, it cast light and shadow upon the cave wall, and the prisoners began to identify the shapes and tell stories of what they saw. One day, one of the prisoners managed to escape from his shackles, and he ran to the mouth of the cave, where he saw beautiful blue skies. He saw beautiful green grass, and he felt the warmth of the sun fall upon his person. Excited, he ran back into the cave to tell the other prisoners what he saw and how he felt. But they didn't understand what he said. They began to laugh at him. They began to ridicule him. They began to tell him he was crazy. And after a while, he accepted what they said, slipped the shackles back on, and washed the shadows upon the wall. How often have you been laughed at, ridiculed, told you were crazy for your business? I hope you enjoyed our conversation today with Debbie Charpentier, the owner of Charpentier Financial Services, and I hope you learned something today that you can grow a strong and profitable business, and we'll see you here again next week. Now the reason is you could have been a veterinarian, you could have been a hazardous. Now you chose Lincoln Financial, and I'll do this a lot. This is a reason why we edit this show. But now, what makes you different from every other financial advice? What makes you different from? It's Monday morning, isn't it?